All right, so content for marketing. So, marketing, basically what it is telling people what you do and why they should invest in what you're doing. So, there's a couple of different strategies as how to do it. So, you can go the social media route, which is like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, things like that. There's also the email marketing route, which is email. There's also TV, but that's really expensive to get on. And also getting ads onto maybe different podcasts, stuff like that is also kind of difficult. So the cheapest and the easiest ones for us as music therapists to do is social media and email marketing. So in social media, that basically means graphics and quotes and maybe tables and charts of what you're doing. And if you want to, if you have a funny voice on whatever you are trying to promote, memes and GIFs or GIFs. And these can be created through a couple of different mediums. So for the graphics and quotes and tables, the easiest way to do it is through Canva, which is a website. It's canva.com. And it has templates for any kind of social media you could ever want. And it has different sizes and it has fonts already picked out, but you can edit it as well. And there's stock photos, and it's just really easy, and there's grids and stuff, so it'll just lock in place and it'll look good. If you want a little bit more freedom, but you still want to just stay online and not have to download any software, you can also go to photopea.com. And photopea.com is basically a online version of Photoshop, and it allows you to edit pictures. So say that you have a picture you took of some awesome instruments you just got from a donor, and you want to add on to the bottom like, thank you so and so for this, but you don't want to use the Canva template and want to have a little bit more freedom, you can do it on Photopea. And if you are trying to be a little bit more fancy and want to get into more software and download stuff, you can do Adobe. And Adobe is just this just huge creative software, and there's different smaller softwares within it that are focused on different elements of design. So there's Photoshop and Illustrator. So Photoshop is editing photos, adding stuff to it. Illustrator is more like if you had a piece of paper in front of you and you were just trying to draw and create shapes on it. However, Photoshop and Illustrator are kind of expensive. So, and also they work a little bit better on Macs than they do Windows. So I'm personally a PC, or have been a PC, and I use Gimp, which is a horrible name, but it is basically like Photoshop mixed in with Illustrator, and I also use Inkscape. So Inkscape is also like Illustrator. And if you want to get into making memes and GIFs, there's two apps that you can use on your phone. And one of them is Jiffy, which is where normally it's where you can just get GIFs to send to people, but you can also make an account on it and upload small snippets and cut small snippets of a video to turn into GIFs that you can send to people or post. And there's also a app literally called Memes, and you can create memes from it. Again, if that's your voice that you're going for. So the other strategy that we have is email marketing. I'm going to pass it off to Kate to talk a little bit more about that.
So email marketing is one of a really good way to market, because you are getting the email of people who are your biggest followers and supporters. And that really is a big deal in the marketing world because you have their email, and that means you can contact them until they may decide to unsubscribe. If they love what you're putting out in your emails, then they're going to stay subscribed. Think of all the things you might get in your promotions tab, the ones you constantly open. That's what you want to be doing with your email marketing. Some tips that people say are really important for email marketing are consistency, and including such things as, if you're posting a podcast episode every week, linking to the podcast episode, maybe telling a little bit behind the scenes. Your email, what's included in your email marketing is more information. It's kind of extra information. It's a special place for people getting extra information or bonus downloads or blog posts that you didn't post and you just wanted to send to an intimate audience. So it's a really extra special place. So you want your email list, whoever is on your email list, you want them to feel special because you are building a very special relationship with them. You're sharing more things with them. If you have a course, for example, you might release it to your email list before you release it to the public. So different things like that, that you want to really be thinking about your email list because they are your most dedicated followers. They're opening your emails. And there's a lot of different ways that you can get this contact going. Some of the platforms, MailChimp, ConvertKit, Constant Contact. From what I've heard, MailChimp is a really great one to start with because you can start free. Once it starts to get bigger, they do start charging. And then I've heard people say that usually once you get to about 500 or 1,000 subscribers, you should move to ConvertKit or Constant Contact because they have better deals because like MailChimp, for example, they'll start to charge you for how many people are on your list. But ConvertKit doesn't do that. However, they start at a more expensive tier. And so again, just like with websites, MailChimp, ConvertKit, they have really easy templates to use. People right now in the marketing world, as of 2020, really like very plain emails when they get from if they're connected with you through your website. You don't need anything fancy. People are actually really liking very simplistic emails, so there's not a lot of pressure to make it fancy. And so it's really powerful too when you compare this to social media because social media algorithms are always changing. And although we have followers, we may not have them forever and people can always just unfollow you. But with email marketing, you are in such a more intimate connection with somebody. So it's really powerful marketing to have. So it's a great place to really build a foundation with an audience that really wants to hear what you have to put out. So you can put tons of different content within that email. And usually I think it's, a lot of extra blog posts or your informative downloads or bonuses for courses and different things like that. So you definitely want to, love on your email subscribers a lot because they're your most dedicated followers.
Yeah, and just to kind of compare to social media as far as the amount of content you're putting into it. So in social media, it's a lot quicker because people are just swiping and they're, or they're swipe, whatever way they're swiping. And so you have your graphic that catches the attention and then you have a caption, but it's a caption. It's not supposed to be every single thing related to whatever your graphic is. So another aspect to marketing is writing your captions so that they're engaging but tell just exactly what is needed and then directing them to your website or that has more information or directing them to be part of your email newsletter chain. So these captions are, and the links that you put in these captions are meant to point them to your website or to your podcast or to your email newsletter where they can find the more in-depth content. So it's almost like social media is a little bit of a teaser to get to more of the meat.
Something else to be mindful of with your content is making your content as accessible as possible. So, for podcasters, which you could probably go to our podcast cranny and you'd find a lot of information about that, but doing audio transcripts are really helpful and something that you can add onto your website or put in your content in that way. And on social media, using closed captioning, there are apps that you can get. There's a bunch of different choices you can look at depending on what your needs are. But if you're creating stories or IGTV recordings or anything like that, or things on Facebook, stories on Facebook, you can use these apps and they will translate everything on screen so people can read them, for those who are hard of hearing. So then you're finding other ways to be accessible, which is really, really helpful and so important for us to do, especially as therapists who work, a lot of us work with people with developmental differences. It's also very important for us to remain considerate to others as well, and do all of those things that we can do in all of our different content creation.
Yeah, also, and including alt text to your images. A lot of apps have the option to do so. When you're uploading an image, you can click the option to add alt text to describe what is actually in the picture. And if there's no option in the actual app, under in your caption underneath your photo, you can actually put description like, this is so and so in front of a red background. So just another way to incorporate accessibility.